Hello everybody, it's all about peat bogs today. Now, I have to be honest, when peat bogs first appeared on the syllabus, I was a bit like, oh God, that doesn't sound terrible. That doesn't sound terribly interesting. And now I know about them, okay, they're still not like the most interesting thing, but they're so important, they're so brilliant. So yeah, I've changed my opinion. I don't know if I'll be able to do that for you, but we'll see. That, ladies and gents, is what a peat bog looks like. If you have ever done much walking up on Dartmoor, Exmoor, the Brecon Beacons, the Scottish Highlands, etc., you may well have seen a peat bog. They're very wet, boggy is the word I was going to use, but that's kind of obvious. They're very wet, and unfortunately people do get stuck and lost and get themselves in quite tricky situations in peat bogs. Hopefully that certainly hasn't happened to any of you, but anyway, that's what they look like. So why are we learning about them? Well, they are huge carbon stores, or to use a piece of terminology that would be really helpful for you, they are carbon sinks. They are a massive accumulation of carbon. I'll come back to this slide, so don't worry. But if we remember the thing that I go on about all the time, if all living things contain carbon, then all dead things contain carbon. You can see some living plants in front of you. You can see grasses and mosses. They clearly contain carbon. But the thing about peat is because they are saturated with water, because they're so wet or boggy, you don't get decomposition. They are, to use the proper word, anaerobic. All right, they don't have oxygen, so decomposition doesn't happen. That means that all of the plants and animals that are in the bog are there forever. Well, yeah, for a very long period of time. They are stores of carbon because nothing decomposes. And to prove that to you, you're very welcome to do some research into this yourselves, but I'm just including a couple of very famous photographs. You get bog bodies from archaeological digs, and these bodies are perfectly preserved. Look, you can see ears, hair, eyelids, lips, you can see all the skin. These bodies are perfectly preserved. Look at the detail that you can still see on the hand. And that just proves, sorry if you don't like these images, that decomposition doesn't happen because these bog bodies are so perfectly preserved. Okay? Therefore, the first thing for you to know is that they are significant parts of the carbon cycle for that reason, because nothing decomposes. But of course, humans have ruined things. They do that with most physical systems, don't they? It's a very familiar kind of sequence of learning in geography, is to go, right, here is the natural situation. Here's what humans have done to ruin it. Here's what we're doing to try and fix it. Yep, exactly that for this video. First thing that we have done to peat bogs is we have turned them into farmland. We have a rapidly growing population. We have people who have more money to be able to buy food. We just have to produce more food. So we do try to turn places into farmland. If you've already watched the biomes video, we talk about deforestation of the tropical rainforest to create more farmland. We talk about farming the temperate grasslands. And here we're talking about turning peat bogs into farmland. It's a very familiar thing that we do. Turning a peat bog into farmland is relatively easy. What you have to do is you have to dig these drainage ditches, and once all the water comes out, then it basically has created farmland, and you can do what you want with it. You may, if you live on or near the Somerset levels, you might recognise drainage ditches like this, which we call reams in Somerset, and those reams are for exactly the same purpose. They are trying to keep excess water off of the land so that you can farm it, because if you didn't have them, most of the Somerset levels would be pretty wet and boggy as well. Okay, so the first thing that we've done to destroy peat bogs is to farm them. In many parts of the world, peat is a fuel. It's used for cooking, it's used for heating, not so much now as it used to, but there are places in kind of really remote countryside that you would find people using peat still. And as you can see, it's cut out of the bogs into these blocks, which you then burn. So that's pretty destructive. People like to buy peat for their gardens because, of course, it's this very rich, concentrated lump of stuff that hasn't decomposed. It's really, really fertile. So we dig peat bogs up and then buy it in bags and put it in our own gardens. Isn't the world bonkers? It is used a little bit in the creation of some whiskies. It's not one of the key reasons, but it does happen. And we're now at a situation in the UK where we have damaged about 90% of our bogs. I should say that we did most of this damage before we realised how important peat bogs were. Ignorance is bliss, isn't it? You do these things and you've got no idea that you're causing major problems. Unfortunately, we do now know, and we are working really quite hard to repair them. But there is a little bit of an issue. There is quite a lot of work being done to restore and recreate peat bogs, but the issue is it takes a very long time. This is not going to be a climate change quick fix by any sense of the word, because peat bogs are created at a rate of 1 millimetre a year. They're important, but it's going to take us time, a long time, to kind of recreate or undo all of the damage that we have done. But what are we doing to protect them? So I just copied this from an international organisation. I'm not expecting you to remember all of this, but I just wanted you to know that globally, peat bogs are now recognised as one of the most valuable ecosystems on Earth for biodiversity, so plants and animals, for drinking water, because the peat bogs kind of act a little bit like a filtration device. You'll find more out about that in a bit. They store water. They're like giant sponges, basically, which means that the water doesn't rush to the river, so it reduces flood risk, and they could help with climate change. They're blinking amazing, really. They're the biggest natural carbon store. Damaged peat bogs are contributing 6% of global CO2. Countries are now being encouraged to include peatland restoration in their commitment to global international agreements. I don't know why we need to say global international agreements, but anyway, including the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. They have now globally been recognised as being pretty important things. I copy and pasted that from this website, which, if you're interested, has got loads more information about why peat bogs are so brilliant. Okay, the first way that we fix them is unbelievably simple. If I can remind you of that, the way that you turn peat bog into farmland is you drain it. Guess what, ladies and gents? The solution is pretty easy too. You block the drainage channels, possibly just with a piece of old plastic, or you might use wood or whatever, and you allow the peat bog to fill back up with water again. It's not exactly a high-tech solution, is it? So that's brilliant that it can be done really quite quickly and easily. The UK, it's not quite yet, but they are going to ban peat compost in this country, so you will not be able to buy peat compost. So we are taking action. But what this all leads to is a case study, basically, ladies and gents, about the Garon Peat Bog in Northern Ireland. There is a little bit of information in your module booklets about the Garon Peat Bog, and as you can see, there are some hyperlinks. The first two are more generally about peat bogs, so if you want to hear somebody else's explanation, to supplement my own, or maybe mine didn't make a huge amount of sense, for which I apologise. You've got a couple of other versions. The second two hyperlinks are specifically for your case study about the Garonne peat bog, and all you need to know is, why was the Garonne peat bog being damaged and what are they doing to fix it? And you'll discover that they are being massively successful. It's one of the big success stories, and I would say that other peat bog managers can use what they've done in the Garonne Plateau and learn from it. So it's a real success story. You can finish on a bit of a on a bit of a good note, you'll be pleased to know. Anyway, that's Peat Bogs. Thank you.